Yes, students, so we are going to discuss a very interesting discussion, that is the discussion on ceiling limit, that is maximum number of companies that can be audited by a chartered accountant in practice. See, let me be very clear. There are two ceiling limits discussion that can be asked in your exams. One is maximum number of audit of financial statements of companies that you can take. Don't remember through any shortcut, just say this: maximum number of audit of financial statements of companies that you can take at any point of time. And then another discussion is the discussion on maximum number of tax audit assignments that you can take. Maximum number of tax audit assignments that will be discussed separately under audit under fiscal laws, that is tax audit video discussion. Currently, we are focusing only on maximum number of audit of financial statements of companies that you can undertake. Now, just 1 year back, this discussion was very dry. I mean, very simple and dry, because we had only Companies Act 2013 prescribing the limit about maximum number of audit of financial statements of companies that can be undertaken by a CA in practice. But now this discussion all of a sudden becomes interesting because of the revised code of ethics. Because there is a limit given under Council General Guidelines 2008 also. I think this would be page number 47 of your book. So chapter 8 of CGG 2008 prescribing the limits. And we have section 141 subsection 3 clause G of Companies Act 2013 also prescribing the limit. So this is where your interpretation issues will come into picture, and we have to compare and understand basically what is a CM practice supposed to do to ensure that he is complying with both the provisions. Let me be very clear before I start reading this. You have to create a win-win situation. What is a win-win situation? That means you need to comply with Companies Act also, and you need to comply with Chartered Accountants Act also. Here, no one is overriding each other. We need to ensure that both the acts are complied. All right. If you keep this principle in your mind, you will never go wrong. So the first thing that you are going to keep in your mind is that we need to ensure that both the laws are complied. Section 141 subsection 3 clause G also, as well as chapter 8 of Council General Guidelines 2008. All right. So let us start the discussion over here. See, in disqualification, you will see that the language is that if you do this, you are disqualified. So they will be like, if you take more than dash number of companies, you are disqualified. Look at this. A person, I am starting the discussion of the ceiling limit as given under Companies Act. A person who is in full-time employment elsewhere. Now, what is the meaning of this phrase? Boss, come to your notebook. Come to your notebook. And in your company audit notes. So if some students have not seen company audit videos and straight away attending this, then you can leave around 10-12 pages for company audit, or you can write this working note at the end of your notebook. Then later on, you can give a reference. Just give the working note number for the students who are attending videos in a sequence. Okay. The next working note number. Yes, Aman, the guiding soul. What is the next working note number? 13. Okay. So for students who have not seen company audit, we have done 12 working notes, which are all controversial working notes. Now, please write down this. Ceiling limit. Maximum number of audit of financial statements of companies that can be undertaken by a CA in practice at any point of time. Means at all point of times, you need to ensure that you are within this limit. Maximum number of audit of financial statements of companies that can be undertaken by a CA in practice at any point of time. All right. We are just trying to decode section 141 subsection 3 clause G interpretation. The first thing that section 141 subsection 3 clause G says, please keep aside a person who is in full-time employment elsewhere. That means if you have ABC firm of chartered accountants, and let us say that Mr. A, all ABC, all three of them are CA in practice. But let us say Mr. A, along with being a CA in practice, he is also in full-time employment elsewhere. Is it possible that with the prior permission of the Council of the ICAI, he could have taken a full-time employment elsewhere? Yes, because it is allowed, no? Under Chartered Accountants Act 1949, with prior permission of the Council, you can get into full-time employment elsewhere. So, let us say that CAA, he is in full-time employment elsewhere. Then in that case, CAA cannot accept the audit of financial statements of companies. Wait, we need to go slow over here. So CAA cannot accept audit of financial statement of companies. That means when ABC firm is getting appointed as an auditor, see, whenever a firm is getting appointed as an auditor, the auditor is the firm, and one of the partner is going to act and sign on behalf of the firm. So that signing part cannot be done by CAA, because the partner who signs on his account, the company is accounted. All right. So that signing part, CAA cannot accept audit of financial statement of companies, means firm cannot say that Mr. A is going to be the signing partner on behalf of the firm. I want you to understand this practically. Have you understood this part? Only then I will go ahead. Have you understood this part? Yes. 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 Okay. Sir, is there any definition of the word full-time? No. There is no definition of the word full-time. Sir, then in exams, how we will come to know that whether he is in full-time employment or part-time employment? In exams, they will give you very clearly till date, whenever they've asked this question, that whether he is in full-time employment or part-time employment. Sir, that means there is one more doubt. What if Mr. A is in part-time employment elsewhere? It tell me, is Companies Act restricting part-time employment elsewhere occupations over here? They are very clear, no? Full-time employment elsewhere. Yeah. So one adjustment over here is, what if CAA is in part-time employment elsewhere? What if CAA is in part-time employment elsewhere? Okay. First thing, this is not restricted under section 141 subsection 3 clause G, because they are very clear that if you are in full-time employment elsewhere, they are excluding you. All right. So best part will be show yourself as part-time. Yes, Aman has started violating the provisions over here as usual. Okay, Aman, I would request that, anyways, you are attending live, but I would request that you at any cost will not skip the discussion on liabilities of auditor. All right, so you will come to know the total liabilities of auditor. Once you see that, you will stop commenting in this manner. Okay, but yes, there can be adjustments over here. Okay, so Aman says that better let us show ourselves as part-time employment. Great. Students, please come to Council General Guidelines 2008. Please come to Council General Guidelines 2008. Yes. In that, look at this point 5.3. Of course, my sequence will be very different because I am going in as per in practical life. What is the first step that you're supposed to check? All right. Look at this 5.3. A CA in practice, whether in full-time or part-time employment elsewhere, shall not be counted for the purpose of determination of specified number of audit of companies by firm of chartered accountants. Ke bolo tarara, bolo tarara. Aman. All right. So I think the institute has just heard you, and they are excluding the chartered accountants in full-time as well as part-time employment elsewhere. What is the first thing that I told you? what is the first thing that I told you? That was, you are going to ensure that both the laws are complied. Win-win situation over here. Yes, don't forget the word win-win situation. So tell me, because when you are a CM practice, you have to follow Companies Act as well as Chartered Accountants Act, both, no? So tell me something. If CAA is in part-time employment elsewhere, not restricted under section 141 subsection 3 clause G, but obviously, see, along with 141(3)(g, in some areas I'll have to straight away compare it with Chartered Accountants Act, otherwise it creates confusion. So this point I need to clear it right now itself, and I hope that you will write this with a different ink. However, it is restricted as per CGG 2008, as per Council General Guidelines 2008. So what is the final conclusion? Whether CAA is in part-time employment or full-time employment, you are going to say that the firm cannot accept audit in the name of CAA, means CAA cannot sign on behalf of the firm in case of audit of financial statements of companies. Please don't extend this interpretation in case of, we will see tax audit separately, internal audit, there is no such limit, correct? Then there are various other audits, concurrent audit, this, that, there are so many audits. We are talking about audit of financial statement of companies. All right. So boss, therefore, CAA cannot accept audit of financial statements of companies, irrespective of the fact whether he is in full-time employment elsewhere or part-time employment elsewhere. All right. So this particular adjustment, if there is any doubt, see whether there is that, whatever you remember from inter-CA 20 company limit, this, that we will discuss separately. But for this particular adjustment, if there is any doubt, yes, Aman.
Sir, let us say that if Mr. A and B, they were the only two partners in that partnership firm, and A was under a full-time employment, and the company which...
Why will you do that? Otherwise, then how will you say your majority of the partners are qualified over here?
Oh.
Are you getting? Because if there are two partners only, then both the partners need to be fully qualified, not to accept the audit.
Okay.
I mean, any firm is not going to intentionally going to do that, right?
Fine. So I'll just modify it a little and make it as ABC, like in your example only. And since you have told in listed entities that that 7 years ka rule wherein they need to be internally rotated, the partners need to be internally rotated. Let us say if it is not possible for C due to some restrictions and only A is left, then what is to be done, sir?
Then what they will do is they will include one more partner, right? They will not let the audit go. Okay. Because you are creating somehow a situation where they will violate only. So there is a better solution to it, no, that they can include one more partner.
Okay.
But I would not go into rotation as of now when I'm discussing ceiling limit. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So now such kind of connections we can do later on. Yes. Tell me what else.
And my second question was over here when you wrote CAA cannot accept the audit of the companies. Under this, do we need to give a reference of 141 also, sir? Because
yeah, you can, but that's a very extended reference, like eligibility qualification.
Yeah.
But when things are getting directly covered over here, you can just talk about that. That much is not expected in exams also, right? You're supposed to hit the bullseye, not the whole bull. All right.
Okay.
So yes, Durgesh is saying that, sir, if we are asked a question on part-time employment, then in that case, there is a violation of Council General Guidelines 2008. Yes. And that is why in professional ethics, you will use a reference of clause 1, part 2, second schedule. Yes. Wherever there is a violation of CGG 2008, you will use that reference clause 1, part 2, second schedule. All right. Done. So we are done with one equation that if you are asked in question, and if there is a chartered accountant in practice who is in full-time or part-time employment, no limit is given to that person. All right. So just not allowed to accept audit of financial statement of companies. One equation settled. All right. Now we will go ahead and read it. Our main reading will be from company audit, and we'll keep on comparing with what is given under Council General Guidelines 2008. Okay. A person who is in full-time employment elsewhere, or a person or partner of a firm holding appointment as its auditor, if such person or partner is at the date of such appointment or reappointment holding appointment of auditor of more than 20 companies. So if you're holding appointment of as an auditor of more than 20 companies, okay, and then they have given the list over here. So basically 20 company limit is there, and other than they have given some exception list that we will get into it. We'll get into it. Wait, and I want to go line by line. So what we are understanding generally is that there is a ceiling limit of 20 companies. Although there are some exceptions, exclusions, we will read that. Don't worry. But is there a separate limit given under Council General Guidelines 2008? Yes. Can you look at this chapter 8 CGG 2008? And can you look at this 5.1? So first there is a basic explanation and then how to interpret that is given in 5.1. For the above purpose, the specified number of audit assignment means in case of a CA in practice or a proprietary firm of chartered accountant, 30 audit assignments, whether in respect of private companies or other companies, with exception of 1% company and dormant company. Okay. We will talk about exceptions later on. So there is one limit of 30 given over here, and there is one limit of 20 given over here. That means we will have to be extremely careful while solving these questions. Okay. And now we are going to understand that how these limits need to be interpreted and what is to be done in exams. But there are separate limits given under Disqualifications of Companies Act, and there are separate limits given under CGG 2008. Great. So please come to your working. So for other partners, in my example, B and C, what is the ceiling limit? What is the ceiling limit? Okay. 141 subsection 3 clause G over here, and chapter 8 of CGG 2008 over here. Okay. 141 subsection 3 clause G says 20 companies per person. So it is always per person. I am writing per person so that in case of firm, you are very clear. So 20 for B, 20 for C. All right. And they have given an exclusion. They have given an exclusion to which companies? 1% company. Small company. Ensure that you are doing the revised definitions of small company from company law. Small company definitions have changed. Be careful. Okay, so 1% company, small company. Then they have excluded which companies? Dormant companies. All right. Okay. Then they have excluded private companies with paid up share capital. Look at this, paid up share capital of less than 100 crore. Of course, this 100 crore you are going to check when you are getting appointed. So as on the date of appointment, that is very obvious. These calculations are always revised on the date of appointment. Okay, but I would like to first stick to the basic exclusions that they have given. So 20 companies per person, exclusion 1% company, small company, dormant company, private companies with paid up share capital less than 100 crore. And over here, as per chapter 8 CGG 2008, they have given $30 companies per person, and exclusion is given to which companies? Exclusion is given to which companies? 1% company and dormant company. 1% company and dormant company. Okay. 1% company and dormant company. Before I go ahead with the discussion, Can I say one person company? And you'll have to go step by step over here. Don't start combining too many things, otherwise you will go off track. So first, answer to my questions, then I'll take your questions also. Can I say one person company and dormant company are turning out to be common exclusions? Yes. Yes, sir. So that means, can I use this phrase? If I'm wrong, please correct me. Can I say that one person company and dormant company, if you're holding, there is no limit at all? Yes. If you're conducting audit of financial statements of one person company and dormant company, absolutely no limit at all. Okay. So even if I'm auditing 40, 50, 1% company, dormant companies, no one is going to restrict me over there. All right. So that is the first simplest thing that we have understood. So what is our combined interpretation? What is our combined interpretation? The first thing that we have understood is there is no limit on holding audit of financial statements of 1% company and dormant companies. What is the second thing that we have understood? Just tell me that in counting the 20, we'll go very slow and basic discussion itself will ensure that you are through with this. In counting the 20 company limit as per Companies Act, can I say I have to consider two types of companies? One is public company and second is private company with paid up share capital of 100 crore or more. Yes. One is public company, whether listed or unlisted. And second is private company with paid up share capital of 100 crore or more. For these companies, can I say maximum that you can accept will be 20? For these companies, maximum that you can accept is 20. Because if you try to go above it, saying that, but as per Chartered Accountants Act, we have 30 companies. But if you go above 20, in case of public companies and private limited companies with paid up share capital of 100 crore or more, if you go above 20 for such companies, you end up violating Companies Act. And what is the basic first golden principle that I gave? Win-win situations. Correct. So one thing that we have understood is that there is a sublimit of 20 companies for holding audit of financial statements of public company and private companies with paid up share capital greater than equal to rupees 100 crores. There is a sublimit of 20 companies for holding audit of financial statements of public company and private company with paid up share capital of greater than equal to rupees 100 crores. We are done with this. This much, at least we are very clear. Okay. So that means, can I say that if you are holding, tell me whether this will be counted or not. If you are holding audit of a private company, audit of financial statement of a private company with paid up share capital of 90 crores, will it be counted in my ceiling limit? Will it be counted in my ceiling limit? Yes, it will be counted, but not in the 20 company limit, but in the overall 30 company limit. All right. So it won't be counted under Companies Act, but it will be counted under Chartered Accountants Act 1949. Now you will realize that why Institute gave a separate Council General Guideline 2008, a separate limit under that guideline. Because the reading of Companies Act was allowing to audit even medium-sized companies like private companies with paid up share capital of 80 crores, 70 crores, 90 crores. There was no limit on that. So it was like, okay, I can take unlimited such audit assignments or what. So Chartered Accountants Act wanted to rationalize the work commitments and wanted to ensure quality of audit of financial statements. That is why they included an overall 30 company limit. So tell me, if I'm conducting audit of financial statement of a small company, yes, everyone is going to reply. If I'm conducting audit of financial statement of a small company Will it be included in my overall ceiling limit? Yes. Of course, yes. But will it be included under the Companies Act limit, under the 20 company limit? No. No. All right. So you can use your quota of 20 companies as per Companies Act for holding audit of financial statements of public company and private companies with paid up share capital of greater than equal to rupees 100 crore. But if you try to hold audit of other private companies, all right, and small companies, although not counted under Companies Act, but CGG 2008 is counting it. This is basically to rationalize some number of assignments also that person can hold, and to distribute the work also, and to also ensure quality of audit of the financial statements. So we understand one thing very clearly, that small company and private companies with paid up share capital less than 100 crore, although not counted as per section 141 subsection 3 clause G, but they are included in the ceiling limit prescribed under CGG 2008. Small company and private company with paid up share capital less than rupees 100 crore, although not counted as per section 141 subsection 3 clause G, but they are included in the ceiling limit prescribed under CGG 2008. All right. That is your overall 30 company limits. Okay. So boss, what are you supposed to do in exams? I hope everyone is ready that in exams, they are going to ask a combined, they are going to ask a question and they will test you on Companies Act as well as Chartered Accountants Act. Yes, I hope you are expecting that much, that they are going to test you on that. Okay. So in exams, how are you going to approach such questions? So first, let me finish off my explanations, then I will take your doubts also. I can understand there could be lots of doubts over here. Now, in exams, the very first step that you have is to check that how many CA in practice are to be counted for the purpose of ceiling limit, correct? So you need to segregate eligible CA in practice for counting the ceiling limit. All right. For counting the ceiling limit. Ram Prasad, I'll come to those adjustments. I'll come to every single adjustment that you have, correct? All the doubts that you have. But first, we are just doing the bare section reading and understanding what to do in exams. Okay. Second, I could have easily finished this in the morning sessions when students are not attending live. All right. So I wanted the discussions. That is why we invited people for this evening session. Second, boss, first sort your life. Columnar presentation is recommended. To show the calculation. All right. So how you are going to make a columnar presentation? So it could be just, I'm giving you an example. Section 141 subsection 3 clause G, read with Council General Guidelines 2008. All right. So you have got carrying forward my example, ABC firm of chartered accountants, correct? So you can make a columnar presentation A, B, and C. For A, you will write, since A was in full-time or part-time employment elsewhere, so you can write A not eligible to hold audit of financial statements of companies. Okay. And then B, 30 overall companies. So you can just give a heading over here, ceiling limit. So 30 overall companies, excluding 1% company and dormant company. And then for C also, you will write the same thing. 30 overall companies, excluding 1% company and dormant company. All right. Then you will show them, you will read the question, and then you will show them companies to be counted as per section 141 subsection 3 clause G. So you are going to consider which companies over here? Public companies and private limited companies with paid up share capital of rupees 100 crore or more. Correct? So wherever in the question you see, sorry, just a minute. Wherever in the question you see public companies and private limited companies with paid up share capital of greater than equal to rupees 100 crores, you are going to count them. You are going to count them. So companies to be counted as per section 141 subsection 3 clause G. Okay. And then companies to be counted as per CGG 2008, even though it is excluded as per section 141 subsection 3 clause G. Over here, you will show them that you are going to consider small companies also and private limited companies with paid up share capital of less than 100 crores. Okay. And boss, over here, this particular calculation, it should not exceed how many companies? Public companies and private limited company with paid up share capital greater than equal to rupees 100 crore. It should not exceed 20. Perfect. Correct. And then 30 minus, just a minute. Just name this as 1, 2, and 3. So 30 minus companies as per step number 2. 30 minus companies as per step number 2. So let us say over there, they have included 14 or 15 only they are holding. Then the balance can be given over here, right? For small companies and private limited companies with paid up share capital less than rupees 100 crore, balance can be given to the third step, yes or no, sir. Balance out of 30 can be given to the third step, yes or no, sir. Yes, everyone needs to confirm on this, because overall you can't go above 30. 1% company, dormant company, so we are not counting only. Public company, private limited company with paid up share capital greater than equal to rupees 100 crore. It should not exceed 20. And whatever they are holding out of that, let us say if they are holding the whole 20 quota they have used for it, then the balance 10 can be given to the third step. If they have used the quota of 13 or 14, then the balance 16 or 17 can be given to the third step. Come on, it's all common sense. It's all common sense. You just need to be switched on over here. Okay. So 30 minus companies as per step number 2 can be given over here. I'm just trying to sort your mind out. Otherwise, you can do these calculations orally also. And if you want to write it in paragraph form, you can just take individual case and explain it as per one case as per the paragraph form. Okay. So this is how you are going to present in your exams. And first you will explain the sections, the theory part. And then you will say that applying this provision to the above case, following calculations can be shown. Okay. Students, if you do it in this manner, you will never get confused. Do you understand that when I ask you to analyze every individual chartered accountant, then we are automatically going to comply with the provisions that they have stated. Now, some students make their life complicated in exams. For example, let us say ABC firm of chartered accountants, B is the partner over there. Acha, B is also a partner in PBQ firm. So tell me, can I say both the firms combined together, B has to ensure that he is complying with the ceiling limit of 30 companies overall, yes or no, sir? Excluding 1% company and dormant company. Because whenever you count ceiling limit, it is always every individual that you are supposed to analyze, correct? Whenever you count ceiling limit, you have to analyze every single individual. Is everyone with me over here? Yes. So just discuss the provisions and then just show columnar presentation. Then just check if one person is a partner in six firms also, what difference does it make to you? You have to analyze every individual person, that on his name, how many audits have been taken, how many audit of financial statements he is going to sign. As simple as that. All right. So if you do this, you will never go wrong and you will automatically end up complying with their provisions. Let us now read section 141 subsection 3 clause G. So I'm reading it at once. A person who is in full-time employment elsewhere, or a person or a partner of a firm holding appointment as its auditor. If such person or partner is at the date of appointment or reappointment is holding appointment as an auditor of more than 20 companies, other than 1% company, dormant company, small company, and private companies having paid up share capital less than rupees 100 crore. All right. There is one big adjustment over here. Private company which has not committed a default in filing its financial statements under section 137 of the said act, or annual return under section 92 of the said act with the registrar, only such private companies are going to be excluded. So this point applies to all of these companies over here. Companies Act says that if you want to claim an exclusion of 1% company, dormant company, small company, private companies having paid up share capital less than 100 crore, then whatever are their annual filing commitments, like you know that there is a filing of annual statement of accounts. There are these filings, mandatory filings to be done about annual audit report, annual financial statements with the registrar. And these things are discussed under section 137 and section 92 of Companies Act 2013. So they are saying that, boss, if there is a default in filing those annual mandatory returns with the registrar, then you are not going to give the exclusion. That means, oh my God, in that case, all the companies who have defaulted in filing their financials, they will be automatically counted in your ceiling limit as per Companies Act. In that 20 company limit itself, they are going to count. And that can make your life difficult. See, there is no logic behind this particular point. What they have done is they have tried to put the pressure on the auditor. Now imagine you are the auditor. You want to claim this exclusion of 1% company, small company, dormant company, private company. You want to claim these exclusions, correct? And hence, you will always pressurize the management. Hey, management, file your annual returns here with the ROC, please. Please file annual returns with ROC. Otherwise, your company will get counted in my ceiling limit for earning 25,000, 30,000 remuneration from you. You will end up utilizing my ceiling limit of 20 companies. So it is like they have put pressure on the auditor so that auditor gets the job done from the company. That's it. All right. Otherwise, there is no genuine logic behind why they have put this over here. So students, we need to make a note of this point. We need to make a note of this point. That is why I said that I'll take you step by step. Come back to this discussion. All right. Please put an asterisk mark over here. And somewhere on the top of the page, please write down. These exclusions can be claimed only if annual filings under section 137 and section 92 are done as per the law. And there is no default in such annual filings. That is a special adjustment in exam. If they have said that there is a default in the annual filings, then you will have to count them in the 20 company limit itself. In the 20 company limit itself. But now there is a doubt that do we have such similar kind of points under Chartered Accountants Act 1949? Because Chartered Accountants Act 1949 gives exclusions only to 1% company, dormant company. Let me tell you, 1% company, dormant company, anyways, there are lots of relaxations in the filing part. All right. But do we have such similar statements in CGG 2008? I will be seeing that. We will read that. We will compare it. Relax. We will read that. We will compare it also. All right. You can understand the way in which I'm taking this whole discussion. We are going to get a complete understanding. But at least we are done with the reading of Companies Act over here, section 141, subsection 3, clause G. Is everyone through with this part? Yes. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
just one doubt. In the section of dormant company, section 455,
Correct.
subsection 4, it says that in case of a company which has not filed its financial statements or annual returns for 2 financial years consecutively, the registrar shall issue a notice to the company and shall enter the name of such company in the register of dormant companies. So, by the virtue of not filing only, these companies are dormant companies. So, how can they be excluded from the this ceiling limit?
How can they be excluded means? I didn't
From
understand.
this exclusion, this exemption is given to dormant companies, and
Correct.
such a dormant company has become a dormant company because of not filing.
हाँ.
तो फिर वो काउंट करेंगे नहीं करेंगे उसको?
क्या होता है that उसके बाद नहीं see please understand dormant companies के केस में if there see only that is not the only reason for dormant companies, right?
Yeah, there are multiple reasons.
हाँ, so you are like over इसकी वजह से तो बना है dormant. Look at your discussion. If that is one of the reason, correct, for dormant companies, then in that case you will count it in the ceiling limit.
Correct.
If that is the reason, and then if you're auditing such financials, then you are going to count it in the ceiling limit.
Okay. Okay.
All right. But wait. We need to also see that in the 20 company limit, you're going to count it because you have to ensure compliance with both the Law Companies Act and this both,
Yes.
But we need to also check whether there are some given exclusions under CGG 2008. What are the conditions over there?
Yes.
All right.
So you told that there are some default under 137 and default under 137 and 92. So how does that default gets defined? Like, is it only with respect to the late filing or
timelines? If you don't follow the timelines, and second, if you don't give them the required documents, correct? Okay. Default can be defined in 2 ways. One, you file it within the timeline, but you have not given the required documents, correct?
Okay.
And second, you give them the required documents, but not filed within the timeline. Then there is a default.
So even a case wherein a company has filed around 10 days late also, and they have paid all their late fees and provided all the documents. Please
understand. Then in that case, immediate. Let us say, Aman, let us actually practically discuss this. 10 days or 20 days late filing is done.
Yes, sir.
Then can I say the ceiling limit will be counted again when next time when you're getting appointed as an auditor somewhere?
Yes. Yes.
So by that time, though, these equations will be settled, no? So
Yes,
then
sir.
there is no default, right?
Okay, so we basically need to check the default also at the time of your appointment.
See, the whole calculations are done at the time of appointment, reappointment. Understood this?
Yes.
Because it's a 10 days, may you think that everyone is going to put a filing, we need to notify, and there will be that it will be counted, and you will start getting disqualified in other companies.
No.
So ये थोड़ा बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया अभी. All right.
Okay.
All right. So if you are saying me that if there is a late filing, is it a default? Yes, it is a default. So just because you have given late fees, but in that case, of course, the Companies Act will also be rational over there. Yes.
Sir, now how do we connect that overall 30 companies limit with the other audit assignments also? Now, how do we take that into consideration?
Other audit assignments, I said, don't use a general phrase. Means audit of financial statements.
Internal audit or a system audit.
That is not applicable only to those companies. Those assignments के लिए है नहीं मैं अमन. ये तो रामायण खत्म हो गया वाला राम कौन है?
No. I'm asking.
I started the whole discussion saying that full ceiling limit is being discussed only for one thing, that is audit of financial statements of companies.
Okay.
So internal audit, concurrent audit, other systems audit, this, that. For that, we do not have a defined ceiling limit.
Okay, but then I did not see that part in the council chapter 8. That's why I asked. Sir.
I just said that we will read CGG 2008 now. I said Companies Act reading is done. Did you hear me 5 minutes back?
Yes, sir. Yes, I heard that. Sir.
Okay. Yes. Anyone else? सबको फटाफट देख लेना है सब कुछ एक साथ. Yeah. Look at this. Now we will just read CGG 2008 and we will see what are the extra points over there. A member of the institute in practice shall not hold at any time appointment of more than the specified number of audit assignments of companies under section 141 of Companies Act 2013. हो गया Aman defined? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Look at this. And that specified number of audit assignment, they have said 30 over here, and we have already done all those adjustments. Now we are just reading it, correct? So that to connect with theory part. And we will see if there is any new point. Provided that in the case of a firm of chartered accountant in practice, the specified number of audit assignments shall be considered as specific number of audit assignments for every partner of the firm. So it will be for every partner of the firm. So per partner that counting is going to be done. That we know, yeah. We have to analyze every individual person. That's it. Provided further that now they will just keep on extending this this whole discussion. If I am a partner in multiple firms, then my overall all assignments that are on my name will be considered the audit of financial statements of companies. Look at this. Provided where any partner of the firm of chartered accountant in practice is also a partner of other firm, the number of audit assignments which may be taken for all the firms together shall not exceed the specified number of audit assignments. Why am I reading this? Because normally, professors may discuss with examples and finish off the table part and the discussion part. But then in exams, you will have to write a little bit of theory. So, sir, exact word to word, if you are not able to write, fine. But try to maintain this language to the best possible extent. Okay. Provided further, where any partner of the firm or firm of chartered accountant in practice accepts one or more audit of companies in his individual capacity. Arey baba, I'm a partner in a firm. I'm also a sole proprietor. Right? I'm also running my proprietorship. So my overall, all the assignments will be clubbed and taken together. But which assignments, Aman? Audit of financial statement of companies. All right. Look at this. Provided further, where any partner of a firm or firm of chartered accountant in practice accepts one or more audit of companies in his individual capacity or in the name of his proprietary firm, the total number of such assignments which may be accepted by all firms in relation to such chartered accountant and by him shall not exceed the specified number of audit assignments in the aggregate. All right. So just few keywords if you use and if you try to maintain the language, they will be happy. Otherwise, to a good possible extent, you can write in your own words also. 5.1, we are done with that. That is, they are saying that 30 audit assignments for individual. In case of firm, you counted per partner, per eligible partner. 5.2, go slow over here. In computing the specified number of audit assignments, the number of audit of such companies which he or any partner of his firm has accepted, whether singly or in combination with any other chartered accountant, shall be taken into account. They are still explaining this point for the 4th time now. It is going to be considered, as an overall limit. All right. Next, the audit of head office and branch offices of a company by one chartered accountant. Achha, this is the first new point. This is the first new point. The audit of head office and branch office of a company by chartered accountant or firm of chartered accountant in practice shall be regarded as one audit assignment. Mark this as very important. Rest everything is already there in my notes. All right. So tell me something. I think I need to give you examples, written examples only, so that there is no problem. Okay. Notes, further notes. So tell me if CAB is the auditor of the company and is also the auditor of branch offices of the company. I hope you are clear with this, that this will be counted as one assignment. This will be counted as one assignment only. Yes. Yes, everyone need to confirm faster so that I can go ahead. The whole effort of arranging this in the evening has been done for interaction part. Yes. Okay. Bolo Aman.
So let us say this particular company had around 10 branches, 5 were audited by B and the remaining.
That example I'm taking. Wait, just a minute.
Okay.
Next, but stay unmuted only. Wait. Yeah, man.
Sorry.
Let us say that CAB is the auditor of the company. And let us say that CAF is the auditor of financial statements of branches of the same company.
Yeah.
And CAB ke naam pe to one assignment we have, one limit we are going to utilize, correct?
Yes.
But in case of CAF also, he's just conducting audit of financial statement of branches.
Yes.
Are you going to count him? Let us say company is a public company. All right. So are you going to count it in the 20 limit of CAF? I think that is the doubt.
Yes, sir. It should be counted, I feel.
Why it should be counted?
Because even though if it is a branch, it is still that part of the company, and then there are two different auditors being engaged on that.
And here also is going to sign an audit report, right?
Yeah.
It's not like he's not going to sign audit report. And in the audit report signing, what he's going to say is just conducting audit of branch of a company. So that is why excluded. But Aman, can I say we will keep this point pending, correct?
Okay.
And we will see whether something is something has been written about this, till in CGG 2008. Let us see that.
So I have another doubt with respect to another concept like joint audits.
I'm coming to joint audit. They to be head office branch ka chal raha hai.
Okay.
We are reading it and we are doing it something. Okay.
Okay.
Next, the audit of one or more branches of the same company by one CA in practice or by firm of CA in practice in which he is a partner shall be considered as one audit assignment only. Yes.
Yes,
Aman.
sir.
So tell me, if you are conducting audit of one or more branches of the same company, it will be considered as one audit assignment only. So if you are conducting audit of one branch, let us say audit CAF is conducting audit of financial statement of one branch of a company.
Yes, sir.
And if that company is not a 1% company or dormant, to hoga hi nahi, anyways, why they will have branches? It's dormant. Yeah. But let us say if it's a 1% company whose branches is auditing, then we will not count in the limit only. I hope that initial discussion everyone remembers, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let us say that this company is counted in the ceiling limit and CAF is conducting audit of just one branch. Still, it will be counted as one assignment.
Okay. Yes.
CAF is conducting audit of 100 branches of the company. Still, it will be counted as one assignment.
One branch only. Yeah, one assignment.
So whether it is one branch or it is 100 branch, this will be counted as one assignment.
Yes.
All right. Everyone needs to confirm on the head office branch office calculation. Is everyone done with this? Everyone needs to confirm on this. Come on, quick. I'm keeping it on one screen. Okay. Is there anything else over here? The number of partners of a firm as on the date of acceptance of audit assignment shall be taken into account. So let us say you accepted the audit assignment and it was more than the ceiling limit prescribed. Then later on, you admitted one more partner in your firm. That is bad. No. For counting the ceiling limit, the number of partners of a firm as on the date of acceptance of the audit assignment shall be taken into account. So whenever you accepted that audit, that will be taken into account. All right. So although this point, it just goes away fast, but be careful about this point. Yes, I am expecting one doubt on this, if at all there is any. Yes, Akshay.
Sir, I have a doubt with respect to point C. Suppose
branch
B
office
and,
wala.
yes, sir. Suppose B and F are partners of the same firm. So if they are partners of the same,
wait. If the firm is appointed as an auditor, correct, then one of the partner acts and signs on behalf of the firm. I mean, signing part will be done by one partner, right? Why will audit report of the company be signed by one partner and branch will be signed by another partner? There may be multiple partners handling the audit. That's a different thing, correct? But signing will be done by one partner, so that situation will not arise. Right? So in any firm, you see that signing will be done by one partner.
So
okay,
practically, it won't happen only.
No, not happen only. It won't happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let us say that if there is a CA in practice who is who is practicing on my behalf, then how does
अरे
this?
बाबा साइनिंग तो यू आर गोइंग टू डू ना.
Yes.
साइनिंग.
Okay. And then let's take
तू
the
फोन
case.
साइलेंट करना, फोन तोड़ देगा तेरा.
1 second, sir.
हाँ, टेल मी. यस.
Yes, sir. In case of partners who are allowed to sign on our behalf, then how would the limit be taken into consideration? Would it be taken as partner plus my signings, or both together 20 and 50?
हाँ, this is a good doubt. Yes. So Aman ke sath I need to discuss a little bit. We filter it and then he comes to a good doubt. So anyone would like to take it over here? Why you have not asked this doubt? I'm waiting for this doubt to be asked since I think the beginning itself. Yes. Durgesh.
Yes, sir.
You understood what he has asked?
No, actually, the audio was a bit lagging. I had some connection issues. So can you please repeat it out?
Everyone needs to get into this discussion. He has said that if a CAB was actually the signing partner on behalf of the firm for audit of X Limited, correct? And CAB, due to some reasons, is not able to sign. So the another partner is signing on behalf of CAB, the audit of financial statements of X Limited, so that X Limited will be counted in B's account or in C's account.
So it is on
needs to
behalf
type it in the
of,
chat box also. Yes.
on behalf of B, that's what will be counted in B's account.
Yeah, sir.
Yes, it has to be counted in the name of B because he's signing on behalf of B, right?
Right.
Correct. So that it will be counted in the name of B only. Okay.
Okay.
But this doubt I was expecting at the beginning, at the end, chalo, at least it has come. Very good. Next. A CA in practice, whether in full-time or part-time employment elsewhere, shall not be counted for the purpose of determination of specified number of audit assignments. That we are already done. Look at this. Oh, bomb drop. A chartered accountant being a part-time practicing partner of a firm shall not be taken into account for the purpose of reckoning the audit assignments of the firm. My God, super. Part-time practicing partner. Do we have such concepts in practical life? Has anyone seen that in your office? There is one cabin for a partner, but he never comes. That cabin is there. Sometimes they will attend over there, and then when you read the partnership deed, you realize that bloody he's a part-time practicing partner. Actually, his main practice is something else only, and with the firm he's just associated on a part-time basis. Part-time practicing partner. Have you heard about this concept? Anyone who has heard about this concept can raise your hand. Anyone over here? You may not aware about it. You may just say, "He to aata hi nahi hai office mein. He does not attend only. I think I should use his cabin." All right. So your observation is this, but if you read the partnership deed, you will realize that he could be a part-time practicing partner. Okay. Sir, even if they are full-time, they act like part-time partners only. That's a different experience. A chartered accountant being a part-time practicing partner of a firm shall not be taken into account for the purpose of reckoning the audit assignments of the firm. Oh, this special adjustment, please come to your workings. Yes. That is why look at this, how I've worded my point in exams. First, segregate eligible CA in practice for counting ceiling limit. That means you are going to exclude CA in practice who is in part-time or full-time employment. This though you had understood earlier only. This is not new point. If a CA in practice is in part-time or full-time employment, you are going to exclude him. And now you have understood you are going to exclude part-time practicing partner. You are going to exclude part-time practicing partner. All right. Do you want me to upload today's notes on the app itself? Yes. Yeah. 10 rupees Google Pay, everyone. 10 rupees Google Pay. Only then. All right. Now, sir, you took away our Diwali bonus only. Yes, there seems to be a doubt over here.
Sir, can we please go back to point D of 5.2?
Wait. Okay, can I just finish off this last point?
Yeah, sure, sir.
Okay. Then I will keep the forum open for all the doubts that students have. A CA in practice, as well as firm of chartered accountant in practice, shall maintain a record of audit assignments accepted by him or by the firm of chartered accountants or by any of the partners of the firm in his individual name or as a partner of any other firm. Basically, you need to always maintain records of how many number of audit of financial statements of companies that you're holding. If you don't maintain this record, you will be held guilty for violating CGG 2008. Students, this question was asked in exams. Other questions have already been asked of ceiling limit earlier, but they asked this, that a CA in practice has not maintained proper records. Every student wrote that guilty, should maintain proper records, but no one was able to connect. I mean, what is the reference that you're supposed to write? Now, CGG 2008 says that these records need to be maintained. If it is violated, then clause 1, part 2, second schedule, you will be held guilty over that. Okay. Basically, whatever ADT 1 filing has been done by the company, that you can maintain a copy of that. Yeah. You are generating UDIN also nowadays. So, the number of UDINs that you have generated, those records, basically all the records which can clearly show the number of audit of financial statement of companies, appointment letters, engagement letters. Okay. Now, this is the discussion. I can understand you will always feel that there are some more points to be discussed. So I leave this forum open for doubts. There could be doubts on joint audit, this and that. All right. So I leave this open for doubts over here. Now, students, for joint audit, look at this. I'll just finish off one doubt of joint audit. If CA, I'll not write A, otherwise you will get confused in this example. CAM and CAN, if they are the auditor of Y Limited. So this is joint audit. Do you understand that in both of their names, one assignment will be counted? Because both of them are going to sign, no yaar? CAM1 and CAN1. Am I clear with this? Yes? Okay. Now there could be more doubts. We will finish it off. Yes, Durgesh. Ram Prasad, Durgesh, Aman, there were doubts that you were typing in the chat box. Everyone else also, just ask whatever you want to ask. Yes.
Yes, sir. So chapter 8, 5.2 point D. Can you please go there?
Finally,
So,
yes.
Yes, sir. So in this case, after the acceptance, say a partner dies or retires. So in that case, his audit assignments will be split between the other partners.
Yes, correct.
So, sir, in that case, if the firm's total number of assignments exceeds the.
So you are assuming that the firm is already running on full quota.
Right.
Correct. Okay. Yes.
In that
case, there is a possibility.
Yeah.
But so obviously, in that case, they will give information to the ICI that this thing has happened, and they will immediately admit another partner. They will not lose the assignments, right?
Correct.
They will admit another partner, and they will.
Wanted to know if any rectification action can be taken in that case.
Because this is out of everyone's control. Correct.
Right.
So there has to be. The institute will show some mercy over here. Don't worry.
Correct.
But clearly, this situation has not been discussed under the CGG 2008. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Ram Prasad.
Yes, sir.
I think you had this doubt. What about government companies? This is very good doubt. That one doubt first I will take. What about government company? Everyone, tell me, will government companies be counted in this ceiling limit if you're conducting audit of financial statements of a government company? Will it be counted in this ceiling limit? Yes, no, yes, no. Okay. Durgesh, why do you think it will be counted in ceiling limit?
Sir, because it is a separate type of company and it has not been excluded.
It has not been excluded. It is a separate type of company. Achha, tell me, Durgesh.
Yes, sir.
Can government company be a private company?
Right.
All right. And can I say it can also be a public company?
Correct.
Correct. So finally, it will have some status, right?
Yeah, right.
Either it will,
Just by the virtue of being a government company, it will not be excluded. That's what.
Correct.
If
Correct.
it falls into the criteria of those
Okay.
private companies, then it will be excluded.
Yes. But can I say that just if government company is given, then you will include it,
Yes.
and you will write a note that boss, it has been assumed that this particular company is included.
Correct.
Okay,
And
sir.
or you can discuss the possibilities and you can
Possibilities, yeah.
talk about it. But Ram Prasad, what happens is that they will give
Yes, sir.
clear criteria in the exams. All right.
Okay, sir.
Now everyone, Ram Prasad, Durgesh, both stay unmuted only. Let us talk about Section 8 companies.
Okay, sir.
All right. So what do you think? Section 8 company will be included?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Do you see a separate exclusion? No. So it will be included.
No.
And Section 8 company also could be either a public company or a private company.
Right.
Okay, sir.
All right. So
Yes.
basic criteria will always be given in the exam. But if it is only Section 8 company given, you include it, boss.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, sir.
All right. So these discussions are always asked. Yes. किधर है मेरा अभिषेक? बहुत टाइम बाद आ रहा है. Okay. Abhishek, can we have a discussion?
Yes, sir.
किधर हो आप? All right. So let us say that तो गाड़ी चल रही है सर, छूट गई गाड़ी, छूट गई. So let us say that you are the auditor of the holding company, Abhishek. You
Yes,
are the
sir.
auditor of the holding company X Limited, correct?
Yes.
And you are also the auditor of that holding company's subsidiary company Y Private Limited. X Limited is holding Y Private Limited. So tell me in that case, and let us say Y Private Limited paid up share capital is 80 crores. Y Private Limited paid up share capital is 80 crores. Correct?
Okay.
So are you going to count Y Private Limited in the 30 overall limit? Yes or no, sir? See, first of all, tell me, is it a 1% company, dormant company? No.
No.
So at least in 30 ka limit, so you are going to count it.
Yes.
Correct? Huh. Now tell me, are you going to count it in that 20 company limit? See, X Limited, you are going to count for sure.
Yes.
But
yes.
Y Private Limited, are you going to count it in that 20 company limit? See, these are two assignments, so two separate counts will be taken. Correct. So X Limited will be for sure counted in the 20 company limit because it is a public company. Now Y Private Limited is a subsidiary of that X Limited. Its paid up share capital is 80 crores. So are you going to count Y Private Limited in 20 company limit or 30 company limit? Everyone type whether in 20 or in 30. All right.
30.
30. Many people are saying 30, 20. So Abhishek, you have your fan following, don't worry. Durgesh is talking childish over here.
Sorry.
Why do you
In
remember?
both. Yeah.
Both. Wait. We need to take a decision, boss. Otherwise, what
Right.
you are going to do in exams?
Yeah.
So why are you remembering these inter-CA points? You should forget them. Inter-CA is over, man. Private company being a subsidiary of public company, don't you think that it is a deemed public company, everyone? Yes, Abhishek, have you heard about this?
Sir. Yes.
आपने
Sir.
सुना हुआ है इसका?
Yes, sir.
That private company, if it is a subsidiary of a public company, don't you think it is a deemed public company? Yes.
Yes, sir.
And hence, don't you think that it should be counted in the 20 company limits? Everyone?
It should be counted, sir.
It should be counted. But I leave it up to you. You can do some research and you can counter me on this point. Ceiling limit is always going to be something that I say that it should be counted. But ceiling limit is something that is always going to be a point of discussion. In practical life also, there are various issues going on here and there. So I encourage everyone to use the chat box of the app and keep posting that out. Sometimes I may be a little late in replying, but I do reply everyone. All right. And you can join the sessions also. If there is any other doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, I'll close the discussion on ceiling limit now. Yes.
So in the same example, let us say it was X Private Limited. If X was a private limited entity and it is holding out another entity by limited,
it will be counted two companies, correct?
Yeah, two
Now,
companies.
the share capital of each company.
X is 100, X is 120, and Y is 90.
Then X will be counted in that 20 company limit. Y will be counted in that 30 company.
Okay. And so in case of listed entities, let us say if we have always talked about this review assignments, wherein they kind of prepare a review report and all that, also a signature is required. Now let us say,
but statutory auditor itself is appointed as the reviewer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So my question is, let us say for the first 3 quarters, I audited the listed entity and I gave my signatures on that. For the last quarter, you have come in and then you have given your signatures on that.
So
and-
basically, wait. So basically, can I say you were either removed or you resigned, whatever it is?
Yes, yes, yes.
First of all, this is very difficult because if you have conducted a review of first 3 quarters, as per SEBI circular, you have to finish off the 4th quarter also and the financials. All right. So let us say 2 quarters you have completed.
Okay, yes, sir.
And then I got, okay, so there are so many things going on in my head. No, when you,
Yeah,
so let us say 2 quarters you completed.
yeah.
And then I took over. I mean, I was appointed as the auditor. So basically, my appointment will take place. No.
Yes, sir.
So now it will be counted in my limit till the time you were the auditor. It was in your limit.
So how does the limit get exhausted? Per review, I have
Don't
to
talk about per review. See that, forget review. It's, I am not counting it because you are doing a review. I'm counting it because you are appointed as the auditor of that company.
Okay, okay.
Understood?
So for me, the score would be 0, and for you it would be 1, basically.
अरे बाबा तू क्या मैच खेल रहा है मेरे साथ?
I mean, sorry, the count would be.
Yes, the count is going to be not 0. Once you are beta, once you vacate, and then I get appointed, then that company will be counted in my quota. No, so when you vacate, your limit, that one limit, whatever was there utilized, it will be restored.
Yes.
And
yes.
then it will be counted in my limit. Correct?
Yes. Okay, sir.
Yes, Ankit.
So this limit, like the counting limit, it will be reassessed every time you accept an appointment, or like
at all times or at all point of time, you have to ensure that you stay within these limits. Correct? And whenever you accept an appointment, at that point of time, you are always supposed to give declarations even before accepting appointment that you are, if this appointment is accepted, then this is going to be within the limits. So yes, it will be counted. It will be continuously reassessed whenever you accept an appointment.
For an example, an auditor has already exhausted his 20 companies ka limit under Companies Act, and then he's accepting a audit of a private limited company.
I was expecting this example. Then he's accept. Let me complete.
Yes.
Then he's accepting the audit of a private limited company whose paid up share capital was, let us say, 80 crores as on the date of appointment.
Yes, sir.
Then this later on, the paid up share capital, let us say it exceeded 100 crores.
Yeah.
So you have to just immediately leave that company, or what you're supposed to do. Now, beta, in that particular company, when your term gets over, then again, if you're getting reappointed, then it will be counted. Because they are very clear, paid up share capital of 100 crore as on the date of appointment. Okay. So because you can't just keep on juggling, no, that count this, don't count this, count this, don't count this. All right. Okay. And Ankit,
Yes.
in that interim period, let us say that whenever you are already the auditor of that company, then let us say you got appointed as an auditor of some other company.
Yes.
Correct? Then you have to reassess your limit as on that date of acceptance. Again, you have to count it.
Yeah.
Correct? So after that 100 crore, whenever it was increased, forget. After that next appointment, whenever you take in audit of any company, then again the recalculations are done.
Okay.
Are you getting my point? So every time you get appointed as an auditor of a company, the calculations need to be revised.
So basically, you cannot accept any new appointment, and the existing appointment.
In that 20 company limit, you can't accept any new appointment. You have to go slow in these cases. Correct?
Okay.
Okay. You see, what that is why in your mind always set golden principles, that whenever you are getting appointed, the calculations are to be done again. Whenever you are getting appointed, the calculations are to be done again. That's it.
Okay. Yes.
All right. Yes, Akshay.
Sir, I have a doubt with respect to 5.4. So, sir, does that mean that a part-time practicing partner cannot accept audit of a company?
Because they are not taking it into calculation only. See, I cannot set such rule. You cannot accept the company in the name of that firm, correct? But if you are let us say you are a part-time practicing partner in ABC firm, and you also have your full-time proprietorship.
Yes.
You accept audit in your individual name, but it cannot so happen that the firm has accepted the audit and you are signing on behalf of the firm. So I will not say that, boss. I will not say that, boss, you are completely excluded. You cannot accept the audit of financial statement of companies only.
Right. So in the capacity as a partner, he is not allowed to accept.
Partner of that firm.
Partner of that firm, right?
That firm. All right.
Sir, one more doubt.
Yes.
suppose CAX is an auditor of 20 public companies, and he also accepts an audit of one dormant company. And during the year, the dormant company becomes an active company. So will there be any violation?
Wait.
or
Next
what
time,
will be
whenever
the
you're
fee?
getting appointed, you recalculate the limit. So
Okay,
next time,
so
whenever you're
no-
getting appointed, you have to ensure that you need to, ensure that you are within your limits, because calculations are always done. Look at these words, no, of Companies Act.
Present date of appointment, right?
Yes, appointment or reappointment. Okay. So whenever you're getting appointed or reappointed, you need to recalculate your limits. Okay. Yes, Swati.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, this appointment and reappointment and the recalculations will also be done if we withdraw from the engagement, right?
If you withdraw, then that particular company is excluded. Now it's no more in your quota, no, right?
Hmm.
Of course, yes. So but basically, when you withdrew, right?
Hmm.
Why are you complicating? Let us say next time, whenever you get appointed as an auditor in any company, again it will be calculated. I mean, you are going to recount it.
Yes.
So just keep one point in mind, because whenever we are forming short statements, we cannot have 3-4 statements in our mind. So whenever you are getting appointed as an auditor in any company, you need to you reassess your countings limits.
Okay.
Right.
And sir, one more doubt.
Bolo.
Why is CA Act not in line with Companies Act?
No,
Like
don't use such statements, not in line with. In fact, CA Act has ensured that the work is rationalized. Companies Act drafting is very faulty and very bad, because the way in which Companies Act has been drafted, they are just including public companies and private limited companies paid up share capital 100 crore or more in that 20. But a chartered accountant also gets occupied in other small companies also, right? So by CGG 2008, Institute has ensured the quality of audit and the work is distributed amongst chartered accountants properly.
But sir, why are there two different limits in both the acts?
Tell me something, right? Boss, if you are a chartered accountant, you always have to follow CA Act, right?
Yes.
And then when you are performing assignments of a particular entity, you have to follow that law also. But you can't keep on violating CA Act. So you can't say that why there are two laws dealing with the same thing. CA Act is always going to deal with all your assignments, because you providing other services to that company, that law is there in section 144 also. That particular point is also there in CA Act also. So that is why CA Act is there, right? That to tell chartered accountants that when you're performing multiple assignments, what are the laws, regulations that you're supposed to follow. All right. So it's not like, okay, why it is not in line with. CA Act is always going to interfere with all your assignments, no? Because that is why they want to tell chartered accountants what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. All right. Yes, Aman.
So let us say there's an advocate who is also a CA in practice, and he has been given this permission by the Bar Council of India to practice law also. Now, how do things work over here?
What is the difference? I mean, okay, but because when Council of the ICAI permits this arrangement, then in that case, they will, if they want to put restrictions, they will say that on your COP now you can't accept audit of financial statement of companies.
Oh,
If they have not put such restriction, you can accept it.
So it can be this subjective also, wherein the ICAI may put it or may not.
Of course, yes. Of course, yes.
Okay.
Institute can restrict your powers of COP.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, Ram Prasad.
Sir, can single CA like partner can sign on behalf of remaining partners, sir? Except by the name of partnership for.
Basically, you are, saying that, let us say you and me, both of us are partners, correct?
Yes, sir. We have
So,
40 assignments.
Yeah,
audit
40
assignments.
40 assignments,
Yes, sir.
correct? And then I sign all 40.
Yes, sir.
Because you are into some other work, let us say, so I sign all the
Yeah.
40. So can the
Yes.
limit be distributed? ये ना tax audit के case में, and I am so sure that you have seen one past attempt question, and from that you are asking this, correct?
Yes, sir.
So yes, na?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, that is there in tax audit assignments, not over here. Okay, so
okay, sir.
all right.
So
That is one of my
no, sir.
suspense, yaar.
Previously we have discussed, no, sir.
You broke my
like,
suspense, yaar, of tax.
No, sir. Previously
You stole my hero moment, yaar. I was going to ask this question in tax audit disqualifications.
No, sir, not like that. Previously, in this class only, now we have discussed that one.
Yeah.
Like on behalf of partner.
Yeah,
B,
that is
C
why I discussed it
signing,
over here. That it will be
counted
counted in the
B or
name of
C.
that partner. Yeah, that on behalf of whom you are signing, it will be
Yeah,
counted out because
so
in tax
that's
audit
why
that in tax audit that distribution is allowed, but not over here. Okay.
Okay, sir.
एक point खुल गया tax audit का. Yes. Anyone else? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0.5, 0.20. Imagine how interesting things can be if you attend live lectures regularly. Okay. I'm closing my discussion, but ceiling limit will always stay without ceiling. I mean, you will always have the doubts, and there'll be never a ceiling limit on your doubts. You can always ask doubts, and I hope that you had a productive discussion in ceiling limit of maximum number of companies, audit of financial statement of companies that you can accept. Thank you so much.